Hello, I'm Attorney Todd Lanieve. Welcome to West Virginia Gun Law. I was recently asked by a viewer to answer his question as to whether or not there are any limitations on the amount of ammunition that a person can own. And so I wanted to do a short video to answer that question, and then in classic lawyer fashion, complicate the hell out of the answer and provide you with a bunch of other information to think about. Stick around. So the bottom line right up front, for those of you who want to get to the point of the video and then take off to watch something else, is that federal law does not prohibit the amount of ammunition that a single person can own. Most state laws don't prohibit that either. Now, there are some states that require you to have an ID or a license in order to be able to purchase ammunition, and some states make you go through a background check to purchase ammunition and possess ammunition, which is utterly ridiculous, but that's the nature of the game with some of these states. So you simply have to be aware of what your state requires before you go to make an ammunition purchase. But the great thing is that under federal law, there is absolutely no restriction on how much ammunition you can possess. And so if you look at what's going on right now with the change in administration in the White House, I think we're in for some pretty good days for the next several years. And I think that there should be a favorable economic impact that happens that may result in either a stabilization or perhaps even in some cases a reduction in ammunition prices. Now the reality is, folks, we will one day again have a change in administration with a political leader who is not so favorable to the Second Amendment, and there is the possibility that once again we're going to be living under the threat of lockdowns and clampdowns on supply. And so this is a time that you ought to consider stocking up on calibers that you have in your collection just to make sure that you have enough for whatever the future might bring, but as well it gives you plenty of excess to be able to train. And if you're going to be a gun owner, one of the most important things you can do is train with your firearms, all of them, so that you have good proficiency with each one of those in the event that you need to use them, whether it's for a self-defense purpose or recreational purposes. Now, that's the simple part of the video here. Let's talk about some of the things that complicate it a little bit. If you are legally allowed to possess a firearm, you may possess ammunition. However, if you are legally prohibited from possessing a firearm, you are also legally prohibited from possessing ammunition. So let's talk a little bit about what prohibitors are present under federal law. Now, for that, we're going to take a look at 18 United States Code, Section 922G. Now, as you see on the screen, there are a number of things that can cause you to be a prohibited person. First off, is if you've been convicted of a crime punishable for more than 1 year of incarceration. Typically, that's going to be felonies, but in some states there are misdemeanors that carry a potential sentence of more than a year. Secondly, you're a fugitive from justice. Third, somebody who's an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. Fourth, anybody who's been adjudicated as a mental defective. Fifth, if you are an illegal alien, which is something that hopefully we're going to be seeing less of here in the next 4 years. Number 6 would be if you have been dishonorably discharged from service in any of the branches of the United States military. 7th, if you've renounced your U.S. citizenship, you are a prohibited person. 8th, if you're subject to a domestic violence protective order. Doesn't mean a conviction, it simply means a protective order is in place regarding domestic violence. Then 9th would be a misdemeanor domestic violence conviction. Doesn't have to be a felony as long as it is a domestic violence offense. Just a misdemeanor is enough to make you a prohibited person. Now those prohibitions all fall under Section 922G, but there's also a further prohibition under Section 922 subsection N, which says that if you are under indictment for an offense that carries a potential penalty of greater than 1 year of incarceration, you can't engage essentially in any new transactions regarding ammunition. The same would apply to firearms, but you can't sell or purchase firearms or ammunition that have been transferred or sold in the course of interstate commerce. So basically, this isn't a blanket prohibition, but it's saying, hey, you can't go into a gun shop and buy new ammunition or firearms if you are under indictment for a felony offense or an offense that carries a potential penalty of greater than 1 year. So another little twist to add on to the traditional 922G prohibitions that most of us are familiar with. Now let's talk a little bit about ammunition itself and what it actually is. Now the definition of ammunition is on the screen here and spells out for us that it's not just what we consider the completed cartridge, but it's the components of that cartridge. And what makes that particularly relevant is that you'll see that it says that primers are considered ammunition. And so when that becomes significant is that if you are a prohibited person, most people understand that there are some exceptions that allow you to possess black powder style firearms. But if that black powder style firearm uses a 209 primer, which is the common primer source for modern black powder rifles and handguns even, that is ammunition and therefore you can't possess it. And so that's something that I've actually consulted with a lot of people over the years who have had questions about what they can possess when they are a prohibited person and whether or not they can have something that uses a 209 primer. You cannot, because a 209 primer is considered to be ammunition. Now, one other little twist on this question is juveniles. Juveniles may not possess ammunition that is designed solely for use in a handgun. And that's an interesting little twist. Of course, I think probably most people are aware that between the ages of 18 and 20, you can't purchase a handgun. You can purchase a long gun or a shotgun, but you can't purchase a handgun. However, between the ages of 18 and 20, you may be gifted a handgun, and it's legal for you to possess a handgun in that age range. But under 18, as a juvenile, there's a general blanket prohibition against possession of firearms unless a variety of different conditions are met. And that's where this one really becomes almost an unenforceable law. It's kind of pointless to even have it on the books, simply because there are so many exceptions. With permission of a parent or guardian, if the juvenile is using that firearm in conjunction with any employment in which they're engaged, if the juvenile is using the firearm or possessing the firearm in conjunction with farming or ranching responsibilities, in conjunction with taking a firearm safety class, in conjunction with shooting or other types of acceptable competition. There are a number of exceptions which really come down to explaining every reason that a juvenile may lawfully be in possession of a firearm. And so in those circumstances, a juvenile would also be entitled to possess ammunition. But there is a general prohibition against juveniles possessing pistol-only ammunition. And if that's the case, again, there are a broad variety of exceptions that could kick in and make that an unenforceable event, make it where it's not even a crime. So the bottom line is that there is not a general prohibition against how much ammunition somebody can possess. Again, be aware of your state's laws, or certain municipalities may have laws of their own. If you have a state that allows municipalities to set legal standards beyond what the state standard is, but you want to double check and be sure that there's no restriction on how you either transport or obtain or store that ammunition within your local jurisdiction. However, state and federal law-wise, no restrictions. Buy as much ammunition as you want, and again, I believe it's a great idea to buy ammunition in bulk for training purposes and for preparation for whatever may come down the road. So I hope that answers the question. If you guys have any thoughts, I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments section below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, would love to have you do that. Hit that like and share button for me. That helps us a lot to get the word out to people who aren't aware of the channel's existence yet, and just trying to grow it and make sure that we get out to as many people as we possibly can. Thanks for spending time with me today. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, take care and be safe.